Once upon a time, before she passed away, Mrs. Harrington made two promises to her daughters. One daughter would marry into the Langford family, a wealthy and respected family in the city. The other would marry the son of a village woman who had once saved baby Serena's life when she was born too early. Years passed, their mother died, but the promises remained. One evening, Mr. Harrington called his first daughter, Serena, into his room. Serena was 26, quiet, kind, and used to swallowing pain without making noise. Since her mother died, she had become even quieter. When she entered the room, her father looked serious. "You know about the 2 marriage promises your mother made," he said. "Yes, Daddy." "I have decided you will marry into the Langford family. Brielle will marry the village man." Serena looked at him in surprise, not because she cared about wealth, but because she knew Brielle would never accept it. Before she could speak, the door opened. Brielle walked in. Brielle was 24, beautiful, proud, and sharp-mouthed. She had the kind of presence that filled the room, and not always in a good way. "Why was Serena called alone?" she asked. Mr. Harrington looked at her. "You came at the right time. I was just explaining the marriage plans." Brielle folded her arms. "What plans?" "The Langford family will take Serena," he said. "You will marry the farmer." Brielle stared at him. Then she laughed. "You must be joking." "I am not." Her face changed at once. "There is no way," she said. "No way Serena will marry a rich man while I am sent to a village." Mr. Harrington frowned. "Mind your tone." "How should I talk? You want to throw me into poverty and give Serena the better life." "This is not about a better life," he said. "That village promise was made because of you. You were the child that woman helped save. Your mother never forgot it." Brielle gave a bitter laugh. "So because one village woman helped me as a baby, I should now marry a poor farmer?" Mr. Harrington's face tightened. "Do not speak like that. And the Langford family is not as good as they look. There is trouble there." "What trouble?" "Enough trouble for me to say no." But Brielle was no longer listening. "All I know is that the Langfords are rich," she said. "They have class, comfort, and a name. Why should Serena get that while I go and suffer?" Serena finally spoke. "Brielle, Daddy is trying to explain." "Stay out of it," Brielle snapped. "You are already benefiting." Serena went quiet again. Mr. Harrington looked at Brielle with anger and disappointment. "You are being selfish. And you are being unfair," Brielle shot back. "You have always liked Serena more." "That is not true." "It is true." Her voice rose. Then suddenly it changed. It became colder. "Maybe it is even better this way," she said. "What if the Langford family finds out Serena cannot have children? Will they still want her?" The room went silent. Serena felt the words hit her like a stone. Mr. Harrington stood up at once. "Brielle." But Brielle kept going. "You are all acting like I said something strange. It is the truth. She cannot give any man a child. So why are we pretending?" Serena looked at her slowly. The pain in her chest was old, but it still hurt every time somebody touched it. Years earlier, Brielle had fallen seriously ill as a teenager. There had been heavy bleeding and panic. Their mother was already dead, and their father was away. Serena had been the one running around the hospital, begging doctors to save her sister. In the middle of that crisis, Serena ignored her own stomachache, which kept worsening. She had to use the little money available for Brielle's treatment, ignoring her own body completely. Then one afternoon, it got worse, and then she collapsed. What followed damaged her body badly. After the treatment and the complications that came later, the doctors told her she would never have children. Brielle knew that. She also knew why. Still, she stood there and used it against her. Serena's voice was low when she spoke. "You said that very easily." Brielle lifted her chin. "Was it a lie?" Mr. Harrington pointed at the door. "Leave this room now." But Brielle did not move. "No," she said. "I will not leave until you change it. Serena should go to the village. I will marry Grayson Langford." That was the first time she called him by name. Grayson Langford, son of the Langford family, the rich man she had already chosen in her heart. Mr. Harrington shook his head. "No." Brielle laughed again, but there was no joy in it. Daddy, this is not fair, and this is not the first time Brielle has stood in my way, Serena said. Brielle frowned. What does that mean? Serena faced her. You want to act innocent? What about Marcus in secondary school? Serena's face changed. Mr. Harrington looked confused. Who is Marcus? Serena answered before Brielle could. A boy who liked me. Brielle said nothing. Serena looked straight at her. He used to wait for me after school. Then suddenly he stopped talking to me and started following you. Later I heard you told him I was proud and already seeing somebody else. Brielle shrugged. He liked class. I gave him only a better option. Serena let out a dry laugh. So it was true. Brielle folded her arms. That was long ago. Yes, Serena said. And now you are doing the same thing again. Mr. Harrington looked ashamed, but Brielle only grew more stubborn. If I want something, I take it, she said. That is how life works. Then, before anybody could stop her, she grabbed a fruit knife from the tray on the small table beside their father's bed. Brielle! Serena shouted. Mr. Harrington froze. Put that down. Brielle's eyes were wet now, but her hand was steady. If I do not marry Grayson Langford, I will kill myself here, she said. I mean it. Stop this nonsense, her father said, but his voice had changed. I said I mean it, she cried. Choose Serena again and watch what happens. Serena took a careful step forward. Brielle, calm down. Don't come near me. Mr. Harrington lifted both hands. Put the knife down first. No. Say it first. He looked at Brielle, then at Serena, and Serena already knew what would happen. He would give in. He always did. After a long moment, Mr. Harrington spoke. Fine, he said quietly. You will marry Grayson Langford. Brielle lowered the knife at once. Serena did not look at her father. She could not. Something inside her had gone cold. Then she lifted her head and looked at her sister. You win, she said. Brielle wiped her tears. As I should. Serena nodded once. Yes, as always. She drew in a breath. Go ahead and marry Grayson Langford. I will go to the village. Mr. Harrington looked at her with guilt. Serena, but she did not let him continue. She faced Brielle fully. This is not the first time you have taken what should have been mine. You did it before. You are doing it again. So take it. Brielle's lips curved with pride. Serena's eyes stayed on hers. But do not regret it later. Brielle laughed. I will never regret choosing wealth. Serena said nothing else. She turned and left the room. She packed quietly that night. No one helped her. No one truly apologized. By morning, she was ready to leave. When the car drove her out, she sat in silence the whole way. She was not just going to marry a stranger. She was being given away because her sister wanted more. After a long drive, the car stopped. The driver turned back. Miss, this is where I stop. The road ahead is too bad. Cars do not pass there. Serena looked outside. The path ahead was rough and narrow. For a moment she just sat there. Then she came down. Her suitcase felt heavier than it should have. Her heart felt worse. As she stood by the road, a woman's voice called out. You must be Serena. She turned. The woman standing there was in her late 50s, simply dressed, with kind eyes and a calm face. I am Grace Whitaker, she said warmly. Grayson's mother. You can call me Mama Grace. Serena greeted her softly. Mama Grace smiled. My son is still out working. He could not come on time, so I came for you myself. She noticed the suitcase at once. Ah, this thing is heavy. Serena tried to smile. A little. Mama Grace quickly arranged for a local bike to carry them and the suitcase the rest of the way. The ride was rough. Serena saw the simple life around her clearly now. Small farms, baskets of produce, goats, chickens, plain compounds, open land. Everything looked far from the life Brielle had fought for. By the time they reached the house, Serena already felt out of place. The house was small and simple. Nothing about it looked impressive. Mama Grace noticed her expression and said gently, It is not fancy, but it is home. Serena quickly shook her head. I understand, Ma. Inside, the house was neat and clean. Mama Grace turned to look at her again. "You are too thin," she said. "Did you eat before coming?" Serena shook her head. Mama Grace said with concern. "Sit down first. I will make something for you. You do not need to stress yourself. How can I not? My son's wife cannot enter my house hungry." Those words were simple, but they touched Serena. She sat down. As Mama Grace moved around, she spoke honestly. "Village life is not easy. If later you truly feel you cannot cope, you can say it." Serena looked up. There was no harshness in the woman's voice, no pressure, just honesty. That honesty almost broke her. Quietly she said, "I do not have anywhere to go back to." Mama Grace stopped, then came to sit beside her. "My daughter," she said gently, "from today this is your home." Serena looked at her and felt something shift inside her. It was not happiness, not yet, but for the first time since leaving her father's house, she felt a little warmth. And for that moment, it was enough. Serena was still sitting in the small sitting room when she heard footsteps outside. Then a man's voice came from the doorway. "Mom?" Mama Grace turned at once. "Grayson, you're back." Serena looked up and froze. The man who stepped inside was not what she had prepared herself for. He was tall and well-built, with calm eyes and a clean, handsome face. His shirt sleeves were folded slightly, and even though he had clearly come from work, there was nothing rough or careless about him. He looked strong, neat, and self-controlled, not flashy, not loud, just quietly striking. For a second, Serena forgot to breathe. This was Grayson. This was the village farmer. Grayson's eyes moved to her, and his expression softened immediately. "So, this is Serena," he said. Mama Grace smiled. "Yes, she arrived not long ago." Grayson stepped closer. His voice was low and respectful. "I'm sorry I wasn't there to receive you. Work held me back longer than I expected." Serena quickly stood up. "It's okay." He gave a small nod. "Still, I should have been there." There was no pride in his voice, no excuse, just simple apology. Then he reached into a small bag he had come in with. "I got something for you," he said. Serena blinked. A gift? She quickly prepared herself. In her mind, she expected something small and village-like. Maybe fabric, maybe sandals. Maybe something she would have to pretend to like so she would not offend him. She accepted the box carefully. "Thank you," she said. "Open it," Mama Grace said warmly. Serena opened it slowly. The moment she saw what was inside, her fingers paused. It was a gold bracelet. Not ordinary gold, real gold, heavy, bright, expensive-looking. Her eyes lifted to Grayson's face, then dropped back to the bracelet. This could not be cheap. Grayson noticed her silence and misunderstood it at once. "You don't like it?" he asked. "I thought the design was simple enough, but if it's not your taste, that's fine. I brought other options, too." "Other options?" Serena repeated. He nodded as if it was normal. Mama Grace laughed softly and stood up. "I told him not to confuse the girl on her first day, but he would not listen." She went to a drawer, opened it, and brought out a smaller case. "Try this one too," he said. Serena collected it with even more confusion now. When she opened it, she almost dropped it. Inside was a pink diamond piece. Her breath caught. She did not know much about jewelry, but she knew enough to know this was no ordinary stone. Even the way it caught the light looked expensive. She raised her head slowly. Mama Grace was smiling. "If you don't like gold, maybe you'll like that." Serena stared at both of them. Then she looked around the simple room again. Old chairs, plain walls, a quiet house in a village. Then gold, then pink diamond. Nothing matched. She tried to smile, but her confusion was too clear. I don't understand." Mama Grace and Grayson looked at each other. Then Grayson sat down and motioned gently for her to sit too. Serena sat. Mama Grace sat beside her. Grayson spoke first. "You expected poor people." Serena felt embarrassed at once. "No, I didn't mean—" "It's all right," he said calmly. "Most people do." The way he said it made it easier for her to breathe. Mama Grace smiled. "This house confuses many people. Serena looked from mother to son again. I thought you were farmers. We are, Grayson said. That only confused her more. Before she could stop herself, she asked, Then how can you afford these? Mama Grace answered, as if she was explaining something very small. My son farms a lot of land. Serena gave a small nod. How much land? Mama Grace waved her hand lightly. Not 1 or 2 plots? Many, across several communities. Grayson added, Farming is only one part. Serena looked at him. One part. He nodded. There's livestock too. Fish farming, some tourism projects, a few other investments. A few other investments? He said it so casually that Serena almost wanted to laugh. Instead, she asked carefully, So, how much do you make from farming? She expected something modest, something good by village standards. Mama Grace answered before Grayson could. Billions every year from crops alone. Serena turned sharply to look at her. Billions? Mama Grace nodded as if she had said thousands. Serena looked at Grayson to see if his mother was exaggerating, but he did not deny it. He only said, It depends on the year. That answer made it even worse. Serena let out a breath and sat back slowly. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Grayson reached into his pocket and brought out a bank card. Take this, he said. Serena frowned. For what? For anything you need, clothes, toiletries, whatever you want. You don't need to ask. He placed the card in front of her. Serena stared at it. The whole day already felt unreal. This only added to it. I haven't even bought anything yet, she said. You will, Mama Grace replied. You're in a new place. There must be things you need. Serena hesitated, then took the card. Still, she looked uneasy. Grayson noticed. What is it? I just don't want to spend carelessly. A faint smile touched his face. Then check the balance first. Serena thought he was joking, but both he and his mother looked serious. So, she brought out her phone, checked the account linked to the card, and nearly stopped breathing again. The amount there was so high that for a second she thought she had counted wrong. She checked again. No, it was real. She looked up slowly. This is too much. Grayson shrugged lightly. That account is small. Serena blinked. Small? I'll transfer more later if you need it. She stared at him. Mama Grace shook her head fondly. Why later? Since she is your wife now, she should manage your money. Serena turned to her quickly. No, Ma, that's not necessary. It is necessary, Mama Grace said. That is how it should be. Grayson nodded without even thinking about it. She's right. Then he added in the calmest voice, I'll give you my other cards too, when I find them. Some are inside the house. I misplaced a few somewhere. Yours. Serena just looked at him. Misplaced a few somewhere? As if he had too many to keep count of, as if billions were normal. She held the card in one hand and suddenly felt very small in the middle of a situation she did not understand. At last, she asked the question that had been sitting in her chest. If you have this kind of money, why do you live here? The question was direct, but neither of them seemed offended. Grayson leaned back slightly. My father built this house himself, he said. Every part of it meant something to him. After he died, my mother refused to leave. Mama Grace smiled sadly. Your father-in-law loved this house too much. I could not just walk away from it. Grayson looked at his mother before speaking again. She doesn't want a new place, and I don't like leaving her here alone, so I stayed. There was no show in it, no attempt to look noble, just truth. Serena looked around the house again, but this time differently. Not as a sign of poverty, as a sign of memory, as a sign of love. Grayson continued, If you want something else, I can build a new house nearby, something bigger, something more comfortable. Serena looked at him. There it was again, that same simple tone, as if building a house was like offering someone a bottle of water. But what touched her was not the offer. It was the reason he had stayed. He was rich enough to live anywhere. He was powerful enough to build anything. Yet he remained in this old house because of his mother. That moved her more than the gold, more than the pink diamond, even more than the money. She shook her head gently. There's no need. Grayson studied her face as if making sure she meant it. You're sure? Serena nodded. Yes. Mama Grace smiled in quiet satisfaction. Something softened inside Serena then. This was the first time she looked at Grayson and felt something deeper than surprise. Respect. Real respect. Not because he was rich, but because he did not wear it like noise, because he stayed close to his mother, because he had power and still spoke gently. For the first time since entering that house, Serena felt that maybe her life had not ended. Maybe it had only changed direction. Mama Grace stood up. Let me go and bring food. The two of you can talk. She left them in the sitting room. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then Grayson looked at Serena and said quietly, You still look like you want to run. Serena looked down, embarrassed. He did not laugh at her. I know today has been too much, he said. You don't have to understand everything at once. She looked back at him slowly. His face was calm. His voice was calm too, and somehow that made it easier. I just wasn't expecting any of this, she admitted. I know. Another short silence passed. Then Serena looked at the bracelet again, then at him. You really farm? That finally made him smile. Yes, he said. I really do. The smile changed his face completely. Serena looked away too quickly, and for the first time, without forcing herself, she found a small smile rising on her own face too. That evening, after they ate, the quiet returned. Mama Grace showed Serena where she could freshen up and where her things had been kept. The house was still simple, but now Serena noticed the care in it. Everything was clean. Everything had its place. As night fell, a new worry entered her mind. Sleeping. She and Grayson were married now, yes, but they were still strangers. She had only met him properly that day. The thought of sharing a room with him made her chest tighten, not because he had done anything wrong, but because everything was happening too fast. Mama Grace went to her room after a while, leaving the two of them in the sitting room again. Serena sat with her hands on her lap, not sure how to bring the matter up. Grayson noticed her uneasiness. What is it? He asked. Serena hesitated, then said quietly, About tonight. He understood at once. His face softened. I changed the bed sheets in my room for you, he said. You can sleep there. Serena looked up quickly. He continued, I'll stay somewhere else until our proper wedding, maybe at my cousin's place or one of the other houses nearby. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. For a moment, Serena just stared at him. You would leave your room for me? Grayson looked surprised by the question. Of course. She did not know what to say. That answer touched her more than she expected. In her father's house, so many things had been forced. People decided things for her and expected her to adjust. But here, this man she had known for only some hours was giving her space without making her beg for it. Thank you, she said softly. He only nodded. You should rest. Today was long. A little later, Mama Grace came out again and heard the arrangement. At once, she frowned. Which cousin's place? She asked. Grayson answered calmly, I said I'll stay there tonight. At this hour? She said. And you want to start knocking on somebody's door in the middle of the night? It's fine. It is not fine, Grayson tried to explain, but Mama Grace did not listen. The night had grown darker already, and one of the side roads had become muddy after a short evening rain. She refused to let her son go wandering around because of sleeping arrangements. In the end, after too much back and forth, she solved it in her own way. You two will use the room, she said firmly. It is your room. The bed is big enough. Nobody will die. Serena nearly choked. Grayson looked helpless for the first time. Mom. But Mama Grace had already turned away. I am going to sleep. Figure it out like adults. She left them there. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Serena looked down, trying not to laugh from pure embarrassment. Grayson rubbed the back of his neck. I'm sorry. That made her laugh a little. No, it's not your fault. He looked at her, and a faint smile touched his lips too. The tension eased a little. When they finally entered the room, Serena's heart began beating fast again. The room was neat and simple, just like the rest of the house. The bed was indeed wide enough for two people, But that did not stop the awkwardness. Grayson stopped near the door and said, "You can take the inner side. I'll stay at the edge." Serena nodded quickly. He picked a pillow and placed it between them once they settled. That almost made her smile again. "You don't trust yourself?" she asked before she could stop herself. The words slipped out so suddenly that she turned red at once. Grayson looked at her. Then he gave a quiet laugh. "I trust myself," he said. "I just don't want you to think I'm trying anything." Serena turned to face the ceiling. "I didn't say you were." "No," he agreed, "but I know we just met." Silence followed for a moment. Then he added in a lower voice, "And you are not exactly easy to ignore." Serena turned her head sharply toward him. Grayson was looking straight ahead now, as if he had not meant to say it out loud. She felt heat rise to her face. He cleared his throat. "I mean, you're very beautiful, so I'd rather be careful." Serena did not know whether to hide her face or laugh. In all the confusion of the last 2 days, nobody had said anything gentle enough to make her shy. It had been pain, pressure, arguments, and change. Now this quiet man beside her was suddenly making her feel aware of herself in a different way. She spoke after a while, still facing away. "At least you're honest." It made him smile in the dark. "Yes," he said. "I try to be." They lay quietly again. The room was still. After some minutes, Grayson spoke. "You don't have to be afraid of me, Serena." The words were simple, but they entered her softly. "I'm not afraid," she replied. He was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Then what are you?" Serena thought about it. "Tired," she said at last. "Confused. A little ashamed, too." "Ashamed of what?" She swallowed. "Everything happened in a bad way. It's like I was pushed from one life into another." Grayson turned slightly toward her, though he still kept his distance. "You were not the one who did anything wrong." "Aw." She let out a faint breath. "It doesn't always feel like that." He did not rush to answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm and steady. "Then let it take time. Nobody is chasing you here." That line did something to her. Nobody is chasing you here. Serena closed her eyes. For the first time in a long while, she felt a little safe. Beside her, Grayson stayed still. Though he was deeply aware of her closeness, her soft voice, and the quiet beauty she carried even in sadness, he kept every restless part of himself under control. He wanted her. Yes, any man with blood in his body would notice her. But more than that, he wanted her trust. That mattered more. After a while, Serena spoke again. "Are you always like this? Like what? Like, calm?" He laughed softly. "Not always. It feels like nothing can shake you." "That's not true," he said. "Some things shake me." She opened her eyes slightly. "Like what?" He was quiet for a moment. "Things that concern the people I love." That answer stayed with her. She did not reply, but something in her softened again. Not all at once, not fully, but enough for her to stop feeling like he was a stranger at the far end of the bed. By the time sleep came, the room no longer felt tense. It felt warm, safe. While Serena was falling asleep in that simple room, Brielle was stepping into her new life in the city with her head high. Her wedding to Grayson Langford had been done in style. There were lights, expensive clothes, loud smiles, and enough public display to impress people. Brielle had enjoyed every second of it. As far as she was concerned, she had won. She was now Mrs. Langford. She had the rich husband, the rich family, the rich name. That alone made her feel she had defeated Serena once again. When she entered the Langford family house, she expected admiration. She expected to be welcomed like a queen. She expected warmth dressed in luxury. What she met instead was coldness hidden behind polished faces. Grayson Langford was handsome enough and well-dressed, but there was no softness in him. Even on the wedding day, he had been more concerned about appearances than about her. He smiled when people were looking. He touched her when cameras were near. But once they were alone, something in him became distant. His mother, Mrs. Langford, was even worse. She was elegant, proud, and sharp-eyed. Every smile she gave Brielle looked practiced. Every kind word sounded measured. She acted warm, but her eyes were always calculating. The house itself was beautiful, yes, but the air inside it was not peaceful. Servants moved carefully. Conversations lowered when Brielle entered. People smiled too quickly and meant too little. By the second day, Brielle already started noticing cracks. Bills were being discussed in hushed voices. One staff member was dismissed after speaking too freely on the phone. Grayson kept getting tense calls he did not explain. His mother kept asking indirect questions about the Harrington family property, land documents, and available funds. Brielle was not foolish. She quickly understood that something was wrong. One evening, she confronted Grayson in their room. "You said everything was fine," she said. "Why does your mother keep asking about my father's assets?" Grayson, who was loosening his tie, barely looked at her. "She's only trying to understand the family she married into." Brielle narrowed her eyes. "Don't play with me." He turned then, but there was irritation in his face, not love. "No one is playing with you." Brielle folded her arms. "Then why does it feel like everyone in this house is pretending?" Grayson gave a short laugh. "Because everyone is pretending." That answer hit her harder than she expected. She stared at him. He walked to the small bar in the room, poured himself a drink, and took a slow sip. "You wanted this life badly," he said. "Now you have it." Brielle did not like his tone. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means exactly what it sounds like." She stepped closer. "Are you saying you didn't want this marriage?" Grayson looked at her over the glass. "I'm saying marriage is not always about love." Brielle's face changed. For the first time, the truth stood before her without decoration. This marriage was a transaction, status for status, need for need, and somewhere inside, all of it was greed. Downstairs, Mrs. Langford was no better. She treated workers with cold superiority, and Brielle fit into that environment easily. She insulted a maid for bringing her tea late. She complained about the accent of one driver. She mocked one cleaner's shoes and said some people should never be allowed inside beautiful houses. Instead of correcting her, Mrs. Langford encouraged it in small ways. The family might be sinking, but they still liked acting above others, and Brielle liked joining them. Still, the admiration she expected never came. Nobody in that house truly respected her. They only watched her, measured her, waited to see what she could bring. By the end of her first few days, Brielle began to understand that money alone did not make a home warm. The Langford family had style, but not peace. They had class, but not kindness. They had expensive things, but their hearts were dry. And Grayson, the man she had fought so hard to marry, was not gentle at all. He was not cruel in the loud way. He was worse. He was cold. When she spoke, he listened only halfway. When she complained, he brushed it aside. When she tried to draw close, he responded only when it suited him. There was no tenderness in him, no patience, no real care. That marriage had entered trouble before it had even settled, but Brielle was too proud to admit it. So she kept dressing well, kept speaking sharply, kept carrying wealth like a weapon. If the house was fake, she would be fake with them too. If love was missing, she would replace it with pride. Still, late at night, when the house went quiet, and Grayson turned his back to her in bed, one thought began to trouble her. What if her father had been right? And far away from the city, in a small room with a simple bed and one pillow placed between two careful bodies, Serena slept more peacefully than Brielle expected possible. The days that followed were quiet, but that peace did not last. About a week later, news came that Grayson and Brielle would be coming to the ancestral village for his maternal grandfather's one-year remembrance. The moment Serena heard it, her chest tightened. She hoped they would not meet, but the village was too small for that. That afternoon, Serena followed Mama Grace to the market area to get a few things for the house. People greeted Mama Grace warmly. Some smiled at Serena too. Then a dark SUV stopped by the roadside. Brielle stepped down first, dressed richly, and carrying herself like someone too important for the place. Grayson came down after her, neat and proud as always. For 1 second, Brielle's eyes met Serena's. Then she looked away and said loudly to Grayson, "So this is the place? No wonder the roads are terrible. How do people even live here?" Grayson looked around with a dry smile. "They manage." Brielle wrinkled her nose. "Everything here looks backward." Some people nearby heard her. The mood changed at once. Mama Grace spoke calmly. "My daughter, not liking a place is different from insulting it." Brielle looked at her and gave a small, mocking laugh. "And who are you?" "I'm Grayson's mother," Mama Grace said. "Oh," Brielle replied, "so you're the farmer's mother." Serena tightened her grip on the basket in her hand. Grayson finally looked at Serena. "So you really stayed?" Brielle turned to her sister and smiled without warmth. "Of course she stayed. Where else would she go?" Mama Grace frowned. "You should speak with more respect." Brielle's face hardened. "Respect? For what? Village people who think suffering is a way of life?" That was enough. Serena stepped forward. "Brielle," her sister turned. "Now you want to answer me?" "You came for family rights," Serena said. "Not to insult people." Brielle laughed. "Look at you. A few days here and you already sound like them." Mama Grace placed a hand on Serena's arm, trying to calm her, but Brielle had no intention of stopping. She insulted the villagers again. She called them backward. She said money was what separated people who mattered from people who did not. Grayson did not stop her. When it suited him, he added his own cold words. Then Brielle said she wanted to see the kind of place Serena was now living in. Before anyone could stop her, she began walking toward the house with Grayson behind her. By the time Serena and Mama Grace got there, Brielle had already entered the compound and was laughing. "This is it?" she asked. "This is where you now live?" The house was simple, clean, and quiet, but Brielle looked around as if it were a joke. "So, this is the life you chose," she said mockingly. "I didn't choose it," Serena said. "You forced it." Brielle shrugged. "And I did you a favor." Mama Grace stepped in. "Enough! You have insulted this village, this house, and the people in it." Brielle turned to her. "Please don't speak to me like we are equals." The words were so harsh that even Grayson glanced at her. Serena's face changed. "Watch how you speak to her." "Or what?" Brielle asked. "You will defend your poor new family?" Then her eyes fell on the pink diamond piece lying in its case on the side table. Serena had been trying it earlier. Brielle moved toward it, opened the case, and froze. The moment she saw it clearly, her face changed from surprise to suspicion. She turned sharply to Serena. "You stole this!" Serena stared at her. "What? This belongs to Daddy's house, doesn't it?" Brielle said. "How else would people like this afford something like this?" Mama Grace was offended at once. "That belongs to Serena. It was given to her here." Brielle laughed in disbelief. "Given by who? That farmer?" Grayson came closer and looked at the diamond, too. Even he could see it was expensive. Brielle reached for it. Serena moved quickly and caught her wrist. "Don't touch what is mine." Brielle looked shocked. "You are holding me." "Yes," Serena said, "because you are crossing the line." Grayson stepped in. "Leave my wife." Mama Grace moved too. "Then tell your wife to stop behaving like a thief." Oh, that made everything worse. Voices rose. Neighbors stopped outside. People gathered near the gate. Brielle shouted that Serena had stolen the diamond. She said poor people were pretending to own what they could never afford. Serena finally snapped and told her she was the one disgracing herself. The argument had turned fully public by the time Grayson returned. He entered the compound, took one look at the room, and understood that something was wrong. He did not shout. He first looked at Serena. "Are you all right?" She nodded, though her face was still tense. Then he turned to his mother. Mama Grace told him plainly what had happened, how Brielle had insulted the village, insulted the house, accused Serena of theft, and spoken to her without respect. Grayson's face remained calm, but the room changed the moment he spoke. "You came into my house and insulted my mother." Brielle folded her arms. "I said the truth." Grayson looked at her steadily. "Nobody speaks to my mother that way." Grayson looked at him. "Watch your tone." Grayson turned to him. "Then take your wife and leave." The calmness in his voice made the room even quieter. Brielle and Grayson tried to mock him again, calling him a farmer, as if it were shameful. But the villagers outside looked more confused than impressed. To them, Grayson was not some poor man. He was the one who had changed many lives there. By then, the crowd had grown. Chief Harlan, the village head, entered the compound after hearing the noise and asked what had happened. Brielle quickly tried to twist the story, but Mama Grace told him the truth. Chief Harlan turned to Brielle and Grayson with clear disappointment. Then, in front of everyone, he said what they did not know. He spoke of the school fees Grayson had paid, the jobs he had created, the farms he had expanded, the people he had helped out of poverty, the families who had become stable because of him. Others in the crowd added their own words. My son finished school because of him. My husband works on one of his farms. He helped us build our house. He has done more for this village than many rich men in the city. Brielle was stunned. She had expected the villagers to bow because she married into a wealthy family. Instead, they were standing firmly with the man she had mocked. Grayson tried to boast about money, but his words meant nothing there. People knew who had truly helped them. Chief Harlan looked at him and said, Then let your money teach you respect first. That finished it. Brielle stood there burning with shame. Grayson could not recover the ground they had lost. Grayson stepped closer to Serena, not touching her, but making his position clear to everyone. As long as Serena is here, he said calmly, nobody insults her. Nobody disrespects my mother. If you cannot behave, stay away from this house. Chief Harlan backed him openly. You heard him. Leave. Not one person stood with Brielle and Grayson. Not one person begged them to stay. They left in shame. When the compound finally became quiet again, Serena stood still in the middle of it all, feeling the sting of what her own sister had brought into Grayson's peaceful world. She looked at him and said softly, I'm sorry. Grayson frowned at once. For what? For all this. My sister brought madness into your home because of me. Mama Grace walked over and touched her shoulder. You did not bring bad character into this house. She came with it. Grayson nodded. What happened today is not your fault. She is my sister, Serena said. Yes, he replied, but her actions are her own. Mama Grace looked her in the eye. And listen to me clearly. You are part of this house now. So, if anyone insults you here, they are insulting us too. Those words settled deep inside Serena. That night, after dinner, the house became quiet again. Mama Grace went to her room, leaving Serena and Grayson outside in the cool night air. They sat side by side on the low step in front of the house. After a while, Serena said, Thank you. Grayson looked at her. For what? For today, for standing up for me, for standing up for your mother. He answered simply, That is my job. She looked at him. Your job? You are my wife. The words were so simple, but they reached her in a place she did not know was still waiting for something gentle. I'm still getting used to that, she admitted. He gave a faint smile. I know. She was quiet for a moment, then said, I was also impressed. With what? The way you handled them. You didn't shout. But when you entered, everything changed. He looked ahead. I was angry. I know. If I had spoken the way I wanted to, it would have become uglier. That honesty made her smile. The silence between them softened. After some time, Grayson said quietly, You don't have to be afraid here. Serena looked down at her hands. With some people, love always feels like a condition. He turned slightly toward her. And with me? She was quiet for a moment. Then she answered honestly, With you, it doesn't. The words stayed between them. He wanted her. That was true. He noticed her softness, her beauty, the way she spoke gently even after carrying so much pain. But he still held himself back. He wanted her ready, not pressured. After a while, he said in a low voice, You are very beautiful. Serena's face warmed at once. Nobody had ever said it to her like that. Not to flatter her, not to gain something, just because they meant it. Her voice came out soft. You really say what is on your mind. With you, yes. They sat there quietly after that, closer in heart than before. That night, when they lay down, the room no longer felt tense. There was still shyness, But there was trust, too, and for Serena, that mattered deeply. In her father's house, care had always come with conditions. With Grayson, she was beginning to know a different kind of love, the kind that protected instead of wounded. The next morning, another matter came up. Chief Harlan's back, which had been troubling him since the earlier struggle, became worse. By the time word reached Grayson, the old man was in serious pain and had to be carried toward where a vehicle could reach. Serena watched the effort with a heavy heart. The road into the village was too bad. If something worse happened at night or during rain, help would come too late. That evening, she sat with Grayson and said, "This road is a real problem." He looked at her. "I know." "No," she said softly. "I mean, someone could die because help cannot get here fast enough." He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Can we do something about it?" she asked. A small smile touched his face. "I was already thinking about it." So they decided together to fund a proper road for the village. The villagers were touched, but many protested. They said Grayson had already done too much over the years. He had paid school fees, created jobs, helped families, and improved farming in the community. Still, he and Serena insisted. For Serena, this mattered deeply. For the first time in her life, she was part of something that helped people instead of feeding selfishness. Work started fast. Real workers came. Real machines came. Good materials came. This was not empty talk. It was serious work backed by real money. Soon, news reached the city. Brielle heard that Serena and Grayson were fixing the road. At once, envy rose in her chest again. She had hoped the village would remember her wealth and forget the shame of that day. Instead, Serena and Grayson were becoming even more respected. She told Grayson. At first, he did not care much, but when she explained how quickly the work was moving and how expensive it looked, his attention sharpened. Brielle paced the room. "It doesn't make sense. Gold, diamonds, cards loaded with money, now a road project. How can a poor farmer afford all this?" Grayson said nothing. That silence only strengthened her suspicion. "He must be stealing," she said. "He has to be. He has brainwashed those villagers, and now he is using stolen money to act like some hero." Then another thought entered her mind. "What if we fund the road first?" she said suddenly. "If we do it, they will start praising them and start praising us." But the truth was simple. They could not match what was already happening. Before they could make any move, Grayson had gone too far ahead. Construction was already strong, fast, and well-funded. When Brielle and Grayson drove past to see it for themselves, they were stunned. Workers were everywhere. The road was already taking shape. The quality was obvious. Brielle stood there staring. "This is impossible." Grayson's face was tight. "No, it's happening." "With what money?" she snapped. He did not answer because he was asking himself the same question. And the worst part was that nothing about the project looked fake. No noise, no delay, no half work, just results. Brielle's envy deepened into something darker. Hatred, suspicion, the need to expose him. She looked at the road, at the workers, at the clear proof that Serena and Grayson were moving ahead without her, and said through clenched teeth, "He is hiding something." Then she turned to Grayson. "I will expose him." She said, "I have to." And far from that bitterness, Serena stood beside Grayson that same evening, watching the road begin to change the village, and felt something she had never known in her father's house. Pride. Not the ugly kind, a clean kind, the kind that came from standing beside something good. But peace did not last. Brielle did not stop. She kept calling Serena a liar. She kept saying the diamond, the money, and even the road project had to be coming from theft. She could not accept that Serena's life in the village might actually be better than hers in the city. A few days later, Serena and Grayson went into town to buy a few things for the coming wedding. The road work was moving fast, and people were already talking about the formal celebration that would soon happen. They stopped at a boutique. Serena was looking at fabrics when she heard a familiar voice. "So even village wives shop here now?" She turned. Brielle stood near the entrance with Grayson beside her. Her face carried that same bitter smile. Grayson looked irritated, as if he was already tired of the whole thing, but would still enjoy any chance to humiliate Serena. Brielle walked closer and looked Serena up and down. "Tell me the truth," she said. "How much have you stolen now?" Serena did not answer at once. She only looked at her sister calmly. Brielle laughed. "Or maybe your poor farmer husband has finally found rich people to deceive." That was enough. For the first time, Serena did not swallow it. She stepped closer. "You should stop talking." Brielle blinked, then laughed again. "Or what?" Serena's voice stayed low, but every word landed clearly. "Or I will say what you don't want to hear. You have taken and taken all your life, Brielle, and still act like the world owes you more." Brielle's face hardened. Serena continued, "You took the rich marriage because you wanted status. You took our parents' attention and still complained it was not enough. You used my pain like it meant nothing. Even what I lost because of you, you still turned into an insult." People in the boutique had started watching now. Grayson stepped forward. "Watch your mouth." Serena turned to him briefly. "You stay out of this." Then she faced Brielle again. "You think money should only belong where pride is loudest. You think because I married into the village, I should become less. But I am not less." Brielle's eyes flashed. "You are nothing without pity. Everybody only helps you because they feel sorry for you." Serena slapped her. The sound was sharp enough to silence the whole boutique. For 1 second, even Serena herself stood still. Brielle held her cheek and stared in shock, not because of the pain, because Serena had finally done what she never expected. The older sister, who always bent, had refused. Grayson moved at once, but Grayson stepped in front of Serena before he could get too close. His voice was calm but firm enough to stop further madness. "If either of you harasses my wife again, there will be consequences." Brielle looked from Serena to Grayson and saw something she did not like. Serena was slipping beyond her control. She was no longer the same woman who kept quiet just to keep peace. Brielle grabbed her handbag angrily and stormed out. Grayson followed, but not before giving Serena and Grayson a dark look. That same evening, the matter got worse. Brielle went straight to their father. She cried, complained, and painted herself as the victim. She said Serena had become arrogant because of village money. She said Grayson was turning her against the family. She said he was probably after their family assets too. That was when another truth came fully into the open. Most of the valuable property their late mother had arranged was meant to go largely to Serena, or at least Serena had a rightful claim to a major part of it. Brielle had always known this, and she hated it. To her, it made no sense that Serena, who now lived in the village, should still have a stronger claim than she did. When Serena heard this again later, she was not even surprised, but Grayson was clear about it. "What belongs to you should remain yours," he told her. "Nobody should pressure you to give it up." Serena looked at him quietly. He continued, "And if it will make you happier, I will put even more in your name. It's not a problem." He said it so simply that she almost forgot how unusual it was. He did not talk about her rights as if he was doing her a favor. He spoke as if those rights were normal. That only made Brielle more bitter. Because while Grayson was speaking of giving, Grayson had already started pressing her for access to her own small money. As wedding plans for Serena and Grayson continued, more things about Grayson stopped making sense. He had assistants. He had managers. He made one phone call and things moved. His assistant, Henry Cole, handled several arrangements with the quiet confidence of someone used to very powerful circles. When they went to inspect the hotel booked for their formal wedding, the staff greeted Henry with too much respect for him to be an ordinary worker. Serena noticed it. She also noticed how easily a luxury hotel had been secured, how vendors spoke carefully around Grayson, how some people seemed to know him without saying too much. Yet he still dressed simply, still spoke quietly, still carried himself like a man without anything to prove. Then came the wedding dress fitting. A top bridal shop had something already waiting for Serena. When she saw the dress, she was speechless. It was elegant, detailed and clearly worth a shocking amount. She turned to Grayson. "You ordered this?" He nodded. "When?" "A while ago." "A while ago?" He smiled faintly. "Long before now." That answer stayed with her. When she tried the dress on and came out, Grayson looked at her and forgot to hide what was in his face. Love. Open, deep love. For a moment, Serena could not even speak. A simple farmer, even a rich one, should not have had this level of influence. Something about Grayson was still hidden. She was sure of it now. But just as happiness was beginning to settle properly in her heart, her father dragged her back into pain. He sent word that she must come for Brielle's wedding ceremony. At first, it sounded like a family duty, something she could endure and leave behind, but Grayson did not trust it. Still, Serena went, because part of her wanted to believe her father could not sink lower than he already had. She was wrong. From the moment she arrived, something felt off. She was not welcomed warmly. She was not even treated like the bride's sister. Instead, she was kept away from the main guests, almost hidden, as if her presence would embarrass the family. The message was clear. Brielle was now the important one. Serena with her village husband was to remain out of sight. The humiliation stung. Then the real reason came out. Her father called her aside with documents already prepared. He wanted her to sign away her inheritance rights so that everything would go to Brielle. Serena stared at him. For a second she could not speak. Then she said slowly, "So, this was the reason you called me here?" Mr. Harrington looked tired, but not ashamed enough. "Brielle needs the protection more," he said. "She married into a rich family. She must secure her place there. You are in the village now. You don't need much." The words broke something in Serena. Even now, even after everything. He was still choosing Brielle openly. Tears burned her eyes, but she held them back. "That property was left to me by my mother," she said. "Not by you. You cannot force me to give it away." His face hardened. "Don't speak to me like that. Then stop treating me like I have no rights." Before things could go further, Grayson stepped in. He had not stayed far away. The moment he sensed something was wrong, he came. "As her husband, I need to know why you are pressuring her," he said. Mr. Harrington looked at him with open contempt, mostly because of everything Brielle had already filled his ears with. "This is a family matter," he said. "It does not concern you. It concerns me if it concerns my wife." Mr. Harrington gave a short, cold laugh. "You are only talking because you think marriage into this family gives you a voice." Grayson did not react. He only said, "She deserves what is hers." But Mr. Harrington still saw him as just a village man, a man beneath the kind of money he respected, a man Brielle had already described as suspicious, controlling, and unworthy. He dismissed him with his eyes, and Serena stood there once again, forced to face a truth she had tried to outgrow. Her father could see her pain clearly and still choose Brielle. For a long moment, Serena said nothing. Then, under pressure, hurt, and deep disappointment, she collected the pen and signed the papers. Her hand shook, but she signed. When she finished, she placed the pen down and looked first at her father, then at Brielle. Her voice was calm, but final. "From today, act as if you never had me." The room went still. Brielle blinked. Mr. Harrington frowned. "Serena?" "No," she said. "I am done. I have given, kept quiet, forgiven, and endured for too long. From today, you have only Brielle. Let it stay that way." She turned to her sister. "You wanted everything. Take it." Then she faced her father again. "But do not ever ask me for anything again." She turned and walked out before either of them could stop her. Grayson followed her at once. By the time they got into the car, Serena was no longer holding herself together. The tears came hard and quietly. She turned her face away, ashamed to cry, but Grayson said nothing foolish. He only stayed close. When they got home, Mama Grace saw Serena's face and understood at once that something terrible had happened. She did not ask questions first. She opened her arms. Serena went into them like a child who had been holding pain too long. Mama Grace held her tightly. "It is enough. You're home now." That word again. Home. It broke something open inside Serena. That night, she cried properly for the first time. Not because Brielle had won, not because the inheritance was gone, but because she finally accepted that some wounds did not come from enemies. They came from the people who should have loved you best. Mama Grace stayed with her. Grayson stayed with her too. Neither of them made her feel weak for breaking. Later, when Serena had calmed a little, Mama Grace went into her room and came back with a wrapped box. She placed it in Serena's hands. Serena looked confused. "Mama? Open it." Inside was an old but stunning family heirloom. It was worth a great deal, and Serena could tell immediately that it was not something given lightly. "I can't take this," she said quickly. Mama Grace held her hand. "You can." "No, Mama, this is too much." Mama Grace shook her head. "You are not just my daughter-in-law. You are my daughter. This house is yours, too. You are loved here. You are safe here." Serena looked at her, then at Grayson, and something settled in her heart. Blood had failed her. Love had built her a new family. That truth healed her more than money ever could. But while Serena was finding peace, Brielle's victory had already started rotting. Grayson and his family needed money badly. Their polished image was becoming harder to maintain. Grayson started pressing Brielle more openly now. One day, it was for business. Another day, it was for image. Another day, it was for an urgent investment. He lied when necessary. He flattered her when necessary. He promised repayment when necessary. But inside, he had already made up his mind. Use her first, drop her later. Brielle, still desperate to remain Mrs. Langford at all costs, kept giving in. She released money bit by bit. She defended Grayson when others questioned him. She told herself it was temporary, but the truth would not stay hidden forever. The Langford family was sinking. Grayson's image was cracking. His confidence had become forced. His money no longer matched his mouth. At the same time, talk of a huge wedding was spreading across the city. A mysterious and extremely wealthy man was finally getting married. Very few people had seen him openly. Many knew his investments, many knew his power, but few knew the face behind the name. Naturally, high society was restless. People were talking, guessing, trying to get invited. Grayson heard the talk and immediately wanted in. If he could connect himself to that powerful man, maybe the Langford family could recover. Brielle wanted the same thing for different reasons. She wanted to be seen again. She wanted status. She wanted people to stop whispering. Neither of them knew the truth. Meanwhile, Serena's own wedding day was drawing close. Even after everything, she still found herself nervous. At times, she would sit quietly and wonder if she truly deserved a love this steady. A man like Grayson still felt bigger than what she understood. Not just because of money, but because of the way he loved without making it heavy. On the morning of the wedding, she was still sitting with those thoughts when Grayson entered in full formal wear. For a second, Serena forgot where she was. He looked elegant, powerful, and almost completely different from the simple farmer she had first met. Yet he was still the same warm man, the same calm eyes, the same quiet way of speaking. He smiled when he saw her expression. "What is it?" Serena shook her head slowly. "You look—" He waited. She smiled shyly. "Too good." He laughed softly. "And you look beautiful enough to make me forget my own name." She looked away at once, smiling despite herself. That was the moment the two sides of him fully began to meet in her mind. The simple man, the powerful man. They were both Grayson. The wedding venue was grand, very grand. Villagers arrived with joy and open hearts carrying gifts, prayers, and blessings. Business people arrived too, dressed in wealth and careful manners. Staff moved with intense focus. Henry was everywhere, directing things calmly, and the authority around him alone made it clear that this was no ordinary event. Serena saw it all and knew now, without anyone saying it directly, that Grayson's world was much bigger than he had let her see. Then Brielle and Grayson arrived. The moment they saw Mama Grace and some of the villagers, they started again. Brielle looked around with open disgust. "So, they let villagers into this kind of wedding now?" Grayson shook his head. These people came to freeload. Some of the villagers heard and frowned, but before anyone could answer, Serena stepped forward. "Be careful how you speak." Brielle turned and laughed when she saw her in bridal wear. "What are you doing here?" Serena looked at her steadily. "This is my wedding." Brielle stared at her for 1 second. Then she burst into laughter. "Your wedding?" she repeated. "Stop it! There is no way that village farmer is the one behind this." She looked around again, then said loudly, "The man behind this must be someone polished, powerful, and important, not Grayson." That was when Henry stepped in. His face was serious. "Watch your words," he said. "You are speaking about my boss." Grayson frowned. "Your boss?" Henry turned slightly toward Grayson, who had just approached. "Sir, should I have them removed now?" The words hit like thunder. Brielle's face emptied. Grayson went still. "Boss, sir." Everything around them suddenly made sense at once. Grayson was not just a rich farmer. He was the powerful man everyone had been whispering about, the mysterious tycoon, the man behind the influence, the richest man among them all, and he had been standing in front of them this whole time. Brielle looked like the ground had shifted under her feet. Grayson's pride broke right there. Everything they had mocked was suddenly greater than everything they had chased. Before they could recover, Grayson spoke. They were warned before. Henry nodded. Security stepped in. Brielle tried to protest. Grayson tried to talk, but nobody was listening now. They were escorted out in public shame. And inside the grand hall, while they were removed like troublemakers, Serena and Grayson got married. It was beautiful. The villagers blessed them with genuine love. The guests watched with admiration. Mama Grace cried openly. Serena stood beside Grayson, no longer as the rejected daughter from a painful home, but as a woman finally chosen fully and openly. When Grayson took her hand, it felt steady. When he looked at her, it felt real. By the time they finished exchanging vows, Serena knew one thing clearly. She had not lost her life when she was sent away. She had found it. Outside that joy, Brielle and Grayson were already turning on each other. Grayson blamed her for provoking Serena and Grayson too many times. Brielle blamed him for being weak and useless. Their words grew sharp. Old cracks widened. Money became the new battlefield. Brielle demanded the return of what he had taken. Grayson denied, excused, and shifted blame. Soon, his business problems worsened. The Langford family's weakness could no longer be covered. This time, Grayson did not ignore it. He made one decisive move through the same business world that had once hidden his face. Quietly, cleanly, and completely, he cut off the Langford family's last real support. That finished them. Grayson's business collapsed. His family's power died with it. His marriage to Brielle broke under the weight of accusation, greed, and public shame. In the end, Brielle was disgraced. Grayson was ruined. Their marriage fell apart into divorce, blame, and humiliation. It was everything Serena had warned Brielle about from the very beginning. After Brielle's marriage collapsed and the Langford family lost what was left of their standing, Mr. Harrington appeared at Serena's new home with Brielle beside him. By then, Serena was living with Grayson in a grand mansion, though the peace inside it still felt warmer than all the show she had ever seen in her father's house. The gate was high, the compound was wide, and everything about the place spoke of quiet power, not noise. When the security men informed her that her father and Brielle were outside, Serena stood still for a moment. She did not expect apology. She did not expect tears, but some small part of her still hoped for shame. What came instead was worse. She received them in the sitting room. Mr. Harrington looked older now, more tired. Brielle looked worn too, though pride still sat stubbornly on her face. For a few seconds nobody spoke. Then her father cleared his throat. "Serena, we came to talk." Serena looked at him calmly. "Say what you came to say." He shifted in his seat. "Things are not as they were before." She almost laughed at that. Brielle spoke next with less patience. "We need help." There it was. No apology, no regret, no real repentance, just need. Serena looked from one face to the other and felt something surprising inside herself. Not pain, distance. She folded her hands in her lap. "I thought we already settled this. I told both of you to act as if you never had me." Mr. Harrington frowned. "Don't speak like that. Blood is blood." Serena's eyes stayed on him. "Blood did not matter when you stood in front of me and openly chose Brielle again." Brielle hissed in irritation. "Are you still holding on to that?" Serena turned to her slowly. "Still?" Brielle leaned forward. "Whatever happened before, we are here now. You are rich. Your husband is rich. Help us and stop acting proud." That line almost stunned Serena. After everything, Brielle still had the boldness to speak like that. Serena shook her head. "No." Both of them looked at her. "No," Mr. Harrington repeated. "No," Serena said again. "You did not come here because you love me. You came because you need money. That is different." Brielle's face darkened. "So, you will really watch us suffer?" Serena's voice remained calm. "You watched me suffer many times." That landed. For a second, the room went quiet. Then Brielle stood up abruptly. "This should have been my life." Serena looked at her. Brielle pointed around the house with anger. "This marriage should have been mine. I should have married Grayson, not you. I am the one who deserves to be the wife of the richest man." The madness of it was so bare now that even Serena felt still for a moment. Then her father spoke and made it worse. "To be honest," he said heavily, "that was what I wanted in the end. I wanted Brielle to have the better match." That cut deeper than Serena had expected. Even now, even after all the damage. He still said it openly, but this time, the pain did not break her. She had grown past the place where their words could decide her worth. Just then, Grayson stepped into the room. He had heard enough. He walked to Serena and stood beside her, calm and steady. He looked first at Mr. Harrington, then at Brielle. "I chose Serena," he said. His voice was not loud, but it filled the room. "I chose her then, and I choose her now. Nobody is taking her place." Brielle laughed bitterly. "That is because you don't know everything." Grayson did not even blink. "I know enough." He moved slightly closer to Serena. "As long as I live, nobody will keep hurting my wife." For Serena, that moment was one of the deepest victories of her life. The people who had once treated her as less were now standing in her home, asking from the life they had mocked. And the man beside her was not ashamed of her for 1 second. Brielle saw it and hated it. So, she reached for the one weapon she believed would still wound Serena. "She cannot even give you a child," Brielle said sharply. "No matter how rich you are, no matter how much you defend her, she can never give you an heir. Everything you have will have nobody to inherit it. I am still the better match." The words landed in the room and stayed there. Serena went still. Even after all this time, that wound was still deep. But before she could shrink into that pain, Grayson spoke. "You are wrong." Brielle looked at him. Mr. Harrington looked confused. Grayson turned slightly to Serena, then back to them. "There's something all of you never knew," he said. The room quieted. "Years ago, before any of this, I met Serena." Serena frowned slightly. "Met me?" Grayson nodded, his eyes resting on her face. "You were younger then, still a teenager. I was going through one of the worst times in my life. My father was ill, the business was heavy on my head. I was carrying things I didn't know how to carry. One day, I stopped by the roadside near your school area. You may not even remember it well." Serena stared at him. And slowly a memory began to stir. A young man sitting alone inside a parked car, his face drawn, his eyes far away. She had passed with her school bag, stopped, and asked if he was all right because he looked like someone about to break. He had not answered at first, but she had stayed. She had spoken simply, like a girl who still believed broken things could rise again. She had told him, "Whatever is making you feel like everything is ending, don't end with it. Rest first. Breathe first. Then stand up again." At the time, she had not known who he was. She had not even known if her words mattered. Now, her lips parted. "That was you?" Grayson smiled softly. "Yes." Brielle and her father watched in silence. Grayson continued. "You had no reason to stay. You did not know me, but you stayed. You spoke to me kindly. You left, but I never forgot you." Oh. Serena's eyes were fixed on him now. He went on. "Later, when I heard what happened during Brielle's medical crisis and how you sacrificed so much for her, I understood the kind of person you were even more. Long before this marriage happened, I had already decided in my heart that if I ever married, it would be you." The room felt different after that. Everything became clearer, the patience, the gentleness, the certainty in him. Serena's eyes filled. Grayson held her gaze and said the words slowly, so nothing in her would miss them. "Whether or not we ever have children changes nothing for me. If we want children, we can adopt. If we do not, you are still enough. You have always been enough." Something inside Serena broke open and healed at the same time. Before she could speak, Mama Grace entered. She had heard enough from the doorway. She came forward and stood on Serena's other side. "My daughter's worth is not tied to childbirth," she said firmly. "If God gives children, we will rejoice. If not, she's still complete. Nobody will use that to shame her in this house." Brielle had nothing left. No one agreed with her. No one stood behind her bitterness. Not even her father spoke. For the first time, her cruelty met a wall it could not break. And for the first time, Serena fully understood the kind of man she had married. He was not just rich. He was not just powerful. He was not just kind. He chose her knowingly, fully, without condition. That truth changed the way she saw herself. She was no longer the rejected daughter sent away to make room for someone else. She was a woman genuinely loved. At last, Grayson looked toward the door. "You should leave." Mr. Harrington rose slowly. Brielle stayed seated for a second longer, stunned, angry, empty. But there was nothing left to say. No power left. No delusion left that anyone would support. They left that house smaller than they had entered it. And when the door closed behind them, Serena let out a breath that felt years old. That night, she and Grayson sat quietly together in their room. No heavy speech, no performance, just peace. After a while, Serena turned to him and said softly, "My love." He looked at her at once. It was the first time she had called him that, with full warmth, with no shyness hiding inside it. His face changed immediately. There was joy there. Deep joy. He moved closer and touched her face gently, like he was still careful with something precious. "Say it again," he said quietly. Serena smiled through tears. "My love." This time when he kissed her, there was no fear in her, no hesitation, no wound standing between them. That night, they gave themselves to each other fully, not out of pressure, not out of duty, but out of love finally made complete. Brielle, on the other hand, still refused to reflect. Even after losing her marriage, her status, and her false life, she blamed everybody except herself. But now nobody stood with her. Her father had no power left. Grayson had used her and left. The fake, rich life she fought for was gone. Her cruelty had been exposed too many times. She was left alone with the truth of who she had become. And the contrast could not be clearer. Serena lost things and became softer, wiser, stronger. Brielle got what she wanted and became emptier, crueler, and finally ruined. 3 months into the marriage, another miracle came. Serena had been feeling strange for days, more tired than usual, a little dizzy, different in ways she could not explain. At first she ignored it. Then Mama Grace noticed and insisted they go to the hospital. The doctor ran tests. When the results came back, Serena sat frozen. "You are pregnant," the doctor said. Serena blinked. "Pregnant?" The doctor smiled. "Yes." Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. Grayson, sitting beside her, went completely still before gripping her hand tightly. "But they said," Serena began. The doctor nodded gently. "The earlier diagnosis may still have been true based on what was seen then, but medicine does not explain everything. Sometimes miracles happen, and peace of mind can also do a lot for the body." Serena broke down crying then, not with pain, with joy too big for her chest. Grayson pulled her close right there in the doctor's office, his own eyes shining. When they got home and told Mama Grace, the woman cried and laughed at the same time, praising God again and again. The whole house rejoiced, and this time Serena did not feel like someone watching happiness from outside. It was hers. The story closed not on the life Brielle had fought for, but on something far better. Serena stood in a life she had never expected. Not the flashy life built on pride, a better one. She had a husband who protected her, respected her, and loved her deeply. She had a mother-in-law who treated her like her own child. She had a community that accepted her. She had peace. She had joy. She had a child growing inside her. And most importantly, she had broken free from the house where love was always measured unfairly. The girl who was forced to swap grooms did not end up cursed. She ended up chosen. She ended up accepted. And the farmer they all mocked turned out to be the richest man of all, not only in money, but in heart.